the logo right over my face. Boo for you on YouTube. Here you go.
You are the
man.
logo. They're going to make Cage the NFT logo. We're back with Crypto Casuals. We do these episodes sporadically. We have every intention of doing them more often. Life gets in the way. We got a million things going on. And frankly, the NFT space tipsy, turvy, changes all the time. So I kind of, for the theme of today's episode, cautious optimism was kind of what I went with, because the last week, 2 weeks, I mean, honestly, Cage, if we even really go back to when the SOS token was dropped, we could talk about that a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's been a run up, even with Ethereum and Bitcoin kind of getting crushed. In these last 3 weeks, Cage, we've seen projects go, from 0.1 to 2 ETH, Alien Friends, for example. We've seen projects, the Fanta Bear, just in the last 3 days, go from 0.4, which I saw that project and I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand the art. I wasn't.
Well,
and now it's
you understand it.
Project.
You understand it. You why you're saying you don't understand it is you don't understand why it made the leap that it made. And we'll jump right in, right? Because that is a great thing. So history, right? We're 2 weeks into the new year in the second week of 2022. And I will tell you, talk about a reversal of fortune. The space guys don't get used to anything, right? Don't get used to anything, because what's there today is not going to be there tomorrow. What's week over week is going to be an interesting thing, right? We ended 2021 with a lot of tax loss farming. A lot of things being pulled down by people selling for a loss to offset gains during the year. And it seemed like that New Year's weekend, a lot of famous people out there all of a sudden started talking about buying again. Maybe they were depressing their buying because of tax purposes. Maybe the CPAs were telling them not to do it. I have no idea. I personally was selling for losses as well. I mean, so I'm in the same boat, right? But
what does that mean? Give us the 101. Don't go too deep, but
well, if you're paying taxes, so the very definition, we're not getting crazy into taxes. No, too deep is, in order to, if you make money, you're supposed to pay taxes on it, whether it's illegally obtained, whether it's through crypto, whatever it is.
You saw that post from the IRS, right?
Yeah.
If you exactly make money selling drugs, you should pay taxes.
Yeah, or gambling, even if it's illegal or whatever it may be, right? If you and NFTs are not illegal, but here's the thing, right? Let's just say you bought 10 NFTs for 1 ETH a piece. And that's all your trading you did. You put 10 ETH in, you bought 10 NFTs for 1 ETH a piece. All right? 5 of them went up to 2 ETH. And you sold them. Okay? You've now made a gain on those 5 from 5 ETH to 10 ETH. Okay? Those 5 went from 1 ETH to 2. You've made a gain from 5 ETH to 10 ETH. You've made 5 ETH. If the other 5 went down to 0, okay, in your wallet, in your brain, in the real world, you haven't made anything. You have broken even, right? Because 5 of them doubled and 5 of them were completely 0. So 5 of them made 5 ETH, 5 of them lost 5 ETH. So on balance, you really had a break-even year. But at the end of the year, for tax purposes, you're showing a 5 ETH gain on those 5, and you're still holding the other ones that you're in for 1 ETH. So if you didn't sell those things, and again, guys, this is just guidance from the IRS. I'm not a CPA, right? And who knows what they're actually going to do and how the taxes will work. You'd probably be able to show like the market value. But what people are doing to make it clean is they sell those 5 at 0, or put them in at 0 or 0.1 or whatever it is. That way, what they show is 5 of them made an ETH, 5 of them lost an ETH, and they really broke even on the year. Because if they didn't have that sale, it's tougher to show the IRS. Sure. The IRS would be like, no, you made 5 ETH, you owe us taxes on that, and then you're paying taxes even though you lost money. And that's an easy example. There are people who have thousands of these things. They jump in, they mint 100 of something, and one of them flew, and 10 of them were rugs. They really didn't make that much money, but the IRS is only going to look at that one that flew, and all of a sudden you got somebody who made $20,000 or $30,000 last year, and the IRS thinks they made 200. Because they're only looking at the one that they actually sold for a profit. It's a difficult thing. So I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole.
No, that's perfect.
But that's why people were selling at the end of the year. You know what I mean?
So we had but then token drop. People sold off at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But here we are. It's been a week, and it's interesting what I've noticed, Cage. So I have 3 topics today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this cautious optimism. What a portfolio, what a portfolio should maybe look like in 2022. And then some lessons from cards. But what I've noticed is the penny stock projects, and Bankless actually has a good stat on this, aren't the ones that are making gains this week. It's the 1 ETH that's become 3 ETH.
Yep.
It's the half an ETH that's become 3 ETH. So like the NFT Worlds has run, World of Women has run, Doodles have run. These aren't cheap projects by any means, Cage. This is $2,000 and up if we kind of relate it to sports cards and fiat.
Correct. So, but what's the difference between those? What's making those run?
My theory is
That's all we have. We don't know the answer. Otherwise, we'd only be buying winners here, folks. And we're just like you, trying to figure it out.
For one, the fixed cost of gas is really expensive, and it's a big percentage of. Let's say you're buying into projects that are like 0.1 or 0.2 ETH. Gas is up there of like 25% of the total cost, and also like
that explains why
the delta between each listing is also very small. So it's
that
really hard
the 1 ETH to 3 ETH. I mean, which one of the 1 ETHs? Like, how do you know? You can't just say, all right, the ones. So how come, one project, let's say, how come World of Women, which if you go back a couple weeks before the end of the year last year I saw the floor as low as 1.86, 1.9, right? And how come that is now 3.4, 3.5 as we record, double from where it was? Whereas,
can we talk about World of Women? Because that project worries me because it feels artificial a lot what's happening. So what I've
that was where I was going, by the way. Your whole topic about influencers.
I've noticed this 12 months ago with the Jordan card, but I'll talk just about World of Women. You see this record sale, 200 ETH. It's published by Logan Paul. A lot of people see it. And in the last 2 days, there's another post that 5 Night Goddesses have been bought. But 5 Night Goddesses haven't been bought, by influencers. They've been bought by people who have money in this space, but aren't as well connected as Logan Paul. And they see a record sale. They've been thinking, I've wanted to get into the Jordan PSA 10 for a while. It's been running. I've wanted to get into World of Women for a while. It's been running. Now's the perfect time. This Logan Paul sale is going to trigger the market, and it's going to cause a run-up in World of Women. And I think they're being duped. My personal opinion, my personal theory, they're seeing this record sale. They're buying into the hype and the mania. And I would be worried. Because it's the same thing that happened last year with the Michael Jordan card that went from 300,000 to 760,000 overnight, back down to 500,000.
But here's the difference.
Tell me.
At that point in time, the 700,000 was a new high by a long shot. And we're talking about a project that I lived and breathed and know better than anyone. Do you know that at 3.8-ish, where it's at now, it's still not at its high, the floor?
The floor. But the Night Goddess sale is a high.
Well, the one Night Goddess is high. But, I mean, what are the other Night Goddesses selling at? Because you also forget I minted a Night Goddess, so I know what I sold one for 6 months ago.
What did you sell it for 6 months ago?
19.
I mean, that's a reasonable sale, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think that's about what they're selling for this week anyway. So that's the point. The point is, World of Women, there's a lot of famous people talking. So let me throw this out there, right? Okay, I love your Logan Paul take, right? I love it. But let's look at a couple of other projects that were...
Reese, I'm coming for you next.
Well, Reese, there you go. So let's look at a couple of other projects. Well, it's World of Women, right? So the fact that Reese Witherspoon is out there cheerleading that Shonda Rhimes bought her first World of Women, that's good. It's good for the project. It's good. If I were in the project, I'd be like, wow, look at these guys. They're buying it. But you know what? Is that going to actually sustain it? But then let's flip it to the other side, right? If last week, if you wanted to, World of Women started moving, but let's just say you had 2 ETH, right? 2 weeks ago, you could have bought a World of Women right before New Year. The next week, you could buy a Lazy Lion, which ran to almost 2 ETH. Right, 1.8. It was at 1.8. The floor. I'm just talking floors now, guys. Not talking about like rarity and the whole deal. And obviously, there's a lot more we can talk about there, but just floors. Right? Why is it that the Lazy Lions, who I think have one of the most rabid communities out there, one of the most rabid communities
I would not want to be with them in a street fight. There's just too many. They'll come from every angle.
Why is it that? And this is what I was asking. But back to the base question, right? Because you're talking about those projects that are 1 ETH that are running. Why is it that 2 weeks ago, the World of Women was at 1.85, 1.9, and now it's doubled. The Lazy Lions is at 1.8 ETH, and now it's 1.38. Right? How come? The Lazy Lion's a community like crazy. Everybody talks about like community. No one's going to tell me that the art in one is better than the other, because first of all, art is, a very subjective thing, and they both have good art. They both have similar art style. It's not exactly like, it doesn't take somebody who's trained in the arts for 20 years under Michelangelo to make either one of those, right? They're cartoony art, So why is it that one ran the other? And I'm going to tell you, my thought is exactly what you're talking about. The Lions have a community. They're rabid. They got 5,000 holders, unique holders, right? And they're on there. They're on the Twitter. They're on there doing that stuff. But they don't have, should I say the word manipulation? They don't have a Logan Paul. They don't have a Reese Witherspoon. They don't have Shonda Rhimes coming in. They don't have, Gary Vee talking about the night goddesses again. They don't have, hey, come join us in the Discord. They have a Discord that's pretty rabid. And basically, they seem to have each other's back there. But I have yet to see, I mean, there was one a while back, like a big Lions, but it wasn't like a celebrity that I know of. But I mean, you don't see that targeted 12 to 24 hours of Pranksy and Gary Vee and Steve Aoki and Logan Paul all talking about new record prices, batting against each other for the high-end lion cub or the lions with the crowns or whatever it is, right? Now, is that really where we are? Is that the NFT space? Because if it is, I got news for you guys. It's exactly where the card space was 6 months ago. And there are no quick flips in the card space anymore. There are no 10Xs in the card space anymore, right? That whole craziness has dissipated, and now it's stock market style returns where you have to actually use some fundamentals and all the other fun stuff. The influencers who were here moved over to NFTs. And I guess my question for you is, once it's caught on, do the influencers move on to something else and leave everybody holding the bag? I mean, you tell me, talk to me, man. This is your topic.
Well, they do. And here's the thing. I think we need to realize, so the Lions have an incredible community, but they're already a massive company in this space. Like, if you just take and look at the market cap, and I know it's probably not the right way to look at it, but like, if you just look at the market cap, which is, how many Lions there are, and let's just use the floor price. They're an $80 million project. So you need substantial whale influencer money to move that huge boat. That's not cheap. That's every single lion is what, $6,000 to $8,000, right? So like, if we just use a LeBron Topps Chrome card, that's what the LeBron Topps Chrome card was, and there's a fourth of the population of that. And even with all of that buyers last year, that card only moved up, to 25, 30,000 for a short period of time, and again it fell off. So you need a lot of sustained money in a project to really move it.
I see the influencers. And I'm gonna ask my question, typical Cage question. It'll probably take me 35, 40 seconds to ask it.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna mute it.
You know more about the space than I do. So I'm just observing and learning.
Yeah, but you know the influence. You see behind the lines, right? Like I see the technical stuff, but you see what's going on behind. This is really about that. It's what's the goal there? I think I know the answer. But is the goal by the top buying to create FOMO? And what I mean by that is this, right? It only works for these guys who are buying and trading. It only works to prop the project up, whether it's Alien Friends, whether it's this new, Disco Bear that just is out for 48 hours and is killing the world, whether it's Chain Runners, right, which had its day, and who the hell knows what's going to happen with that. Is the reason why the constant posting of the rare sales, 15 ETH, 20 ETH, 50 ETH, 100 ETH sale on something that has a 0.5 floor, is that to evoke FOMO in the masses? Is that so that the common you or I say, wow, well, this guy's buying that one for 100 ETH, this guy's buying that one for 25, 50 ETH. I got to get in on this project. Let me get in while the floor is still 0.5 or 0.8 or 1. And it starts this process where it's like, I got to get in for the ride. I don't want to miss out. And you saw it with Chain Runners was a great example, right? Where it seemed like the same couple of people were buying it 10, 20 times the floor. And then all of a sudden, the floor started moving up because everybody's like, I got to get in this. This is the next Punks. This is the next whatever it is, the next blue chip, right? So talk to me about that. Is it a coordinated effort so that you, me, and the people listening to this who are watching and have no choice because they're on Twitter, because that's the place, right? You're bombarded with, wow, look at this project. This one's buying it. This one's buying it. And they're paying this much. I got to get in. Is FOMO part of it?
I think, so I don't know how coordinated it is. It feels very coordinated, but it's coordinated towards two groups of people. It's coordinated towards B and C and D list celebrities who are going to go start reaching for some of those nicer NFTs, whether that's in the world of women's space or other. And then when those B, C, and D list celebrities who all have met Logan Paul, they hang out together, but they're not friends. You know what I mean? They're kind of acquaintances. When they see those huge purchases, they're like, man, I should have got in when Logan Paul told me about that, 6 months ago. But I'm going to get in now because it's FOMO, right? These guys have money. They're B and C D list celebrities. They have money. So they go and they start reaching for these rare ones. When the everyday average Joe and Schmo sees those sales, sees 5, 6, like we talked about, Night Goddess sales, they start buying up the floor and the floor starts moving. And here's what happens. The coordinated effort, those people have just sold out, right? They just had the 200 ETH sale. He's no longer in the project. Their acquaintances, their B, C, and D list celebrities have now bought in. Now the average Joes buy up the floor, raise the floor, but poof, the bubble is gone because the influencers are going to go and move. The coordinated influencers are going to go and move on to another project that they could pump and take 200 ETH out of. The B, C, and D list celebrities probably will go on to doing what they do because they don't really watch OpenSea every day like we do. And then the floor is going to start falling because you're going to have people undercutting each other as the momentum leaves. And you're going to start to see that these projects that have been pumped, the volume is going to trickle away. That's how I see it. That's the chain of events that I see. It's funny. I took the Tim Sykes penny trading class, and who would have thought that a year later I would be using the learnings in the NFT space.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I have a theory, right? So,
Please.
Gambling has become legal in New York today. And it is advertised everywhere. And it's in your face. And, even if you're not a gambler, you got to go get an account today. Everybody's giving away $250, $300, $400, $500 free gambling, right? And in addition to that, every single website, MGM, they got Caesar out there with the gold, Halle Berry playing Cleopatra. You got BetMGM's got Ben Affleck, and you got all these. They're basically throwing money before they've made $1 doing this stuff. They're throwing money at it, right? Now they make money and they have money to throw around, but the money is an investment. So I don't know if you remember this. You and I did like a master course. Right? We were helping people out. You remember this? We were talking to people, and one of the things that I mentioned a couple of months ago, right, during this was Sandbox. And I said that Sandbox was a thing to buy because it was land, right? And land was going to be huge. And we were talking to somebody we knew who was a real estate investor who was actually like buying land up and then reselling it. And I'm like, well, why don't you buy land in the NFT space? This was way before land exploded. But the reason why was because the day before, and I'm World of Women, well, let's go right back to it, they announced that they were buying their space in Sandbox, right? And I said, look at this, World of Women, big project. Yeah, they're gonna have their their land in Sandbox, and I'm sure there was probably some sort of a deal there, right? We talk about one hand washes the other hand. Let's just say hypothetically, you're a big company that owns buildings, right? And you're trying to rent out the space. Well, you're a big company that uses a lot of law firms. So maybe you get the law firm in your building.
You get the biggest one.
They rent out the
rent
space
for a year.
And you say, okay, you rent space in our place and pay us at market rate. And we'll make sure that we use your firm and pay you at market rate for X number of hours during the year. Okay, so what happens, right? World of Women, Sandbox, World of Women. You know who bought Logan Paul's Night Goddess? Can you look it up for me? Because look at his tweet. Look at his tweet. Go right to his tweet about the Night Goddess. Right? So while Andrew's looking this up, right? I'm of the belief that you can kill two birds with one stone. You can get a lot of.
Two.
What'd you say?
Or save two of them.
Okay, you could save two if you like. say two with one nest. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you can get two things accomplished at the same time, right? So think of Sandbox here as BetMGM. Think of Sandbox here as Caesars, right? And what they want is they want more people buying Sandbox. But more
The
importantly,
Sandbox game bought it.
oh, did they? Did Sandbox buy? I wasn't sure when I asked that question. Did Sandbox pay 4 times what the market value was? So here's the fun, right? Remember, guys, when FanDuel and DraftKings were each their own thing, right? And when they started, there was a war. They were butting heads. They were throwing money at people. They were advertising like crazy because somebody has to be dominant. So who's going to be the dominant land? Is it going to be Decentraland? Is it going to be Sandbox? Is it going to be something else? So what happens? Maybe Sandbox, now remember, maybe, I don't have the answers. I don't work for Sandbox. But maybe Sandbox says, you know who the huge influencer in the space would be? You know who'd be great to get? Logan Paul. Maybe we should pay him a couple $1 million, and down the road he'll talk about Sandbox. But you know what we can also do? Maybe World of Women is buying here. Connect the dots here, guys, right? World of Women's on Sandbox. They announced the whole deal. They're going to be in Sandbox. Sandbox, World of Women. Get Logan Paul. We'll pay a crazy amount for Logan's Night Goddess. And we'll now display the Night Goddess on Sandbox. This is Logan Paul's, pay for this much money. And are they doing anything other than hiring somebody to advertise for Sandbox like every other company does? But we don't see it like that. What we see is, oh my God, World of Women just sold for hundreds of ETH. Look at this crazy. I got to get on the floor. Let me buy one for 3.8.
The biggest difference there between a regulated market like stocks is that when you pay someone to promote, they have to put that very clearly that I have been paid by this company to promote this stock.
But have they paid him?
But here, they haven't paid him. They just bought his specific share. So let's have some more fun. I love to do this. So Cage, thank you for leading this little tiny fish to water. Now I go to the sale, and should I show people how I found the sale?
Please, by all means, if you'd like.
So you go Logan Paul's tweet. You find World of Women 6025. You open OpenSea. You go World of Women. Okay, you're a brilliant man. Sorry that my computer is slow, guys. If this show takes off, I will buy a new one of these. And
so will I, because I'm doing this all on my iPhone 6. So 3.4 right now. 3.4. All right, it came down a little.
It was 1.8. Maybe
1.85, 1.9, 2 weeks ago, definitely. So before the new year, 100% below 2. So, guys, this is an awesome Night Goddess, by the way. It's also 90, so it's a combination of the two rarest, like Earth. You see the leaves there, and it's bubblegum. It's got a lot of great traits.
I personally like the art. Cage has been... we'll see. So here's
what did he pay for it? 60?
He bought it for 60th from Palace. We could go.
I remember when he bought it.
5 months ago, August 7 at 7:28 p.m. I think that was right after National, which is a sports card convention. So you go Sandbox game. But here's where the fun is. I'll go to activity. So I want to know what else are they buying. And there's going to be a project here that you may have seen that has run up like crazy. Crypto Mories, a project that was 0.5 ETH. Cage, let's go see, because I remember Gary was sweeping the floor on it, right? What is the floor price? He was sweeping the floor on Crypto Mories.
Wow, 0.5. 1.72 now.
And then I go to activity, and you see the volume spike. And then you've seen it here before, and then it fizzles out. And I expect to see something very similar here as we proceed. So now, this is actually exactly how I wanted this episode to go. So cautious optimism.
But now I feel deflated.
No,
I feel like, how am I supposed to compete with the big boys? Talk to me. Pump me back up a little bit. Pump it.
Collector's mindset is what I keep thinking about, is how to at least think a little bit more long-term, because I don't know if it's a winning mindset, but I have seen that in sports cards, and I keep using sports cards as a metaphor because I do believe we're just 1 year behind how the sports card market has behaved. Not with every card, but with the big players. Collectors end up winning. But what collectors did was after this run up and this pump is they started talking or pumping really low pop projects. So I do expect, kind of 1,000 supply projects to be kind of the next one. I have a question here. If you're a portfolio manager, portfolio advisor, and you would say, this is, let's structure how your portfolio should look in 2022. What advice would you give them? Would you say, hold a lot of 3 projects that you believe in, but hold, 5 assets? Would you diversify and kind of try to buy into every project? So hopefully the alpha of one really pays off. Well, if you're a portfolio manager, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, Cage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your client. I have 100 ETH to invest.
Right. So it's diversify all the time, right? So there's fun. There's fun in finding a project that runs. There's fun in doing it, right? I will tell you that the toughest part about the space is this. People are making money. And you're going to see that because they're the ones who are the loudest, right? So when you go on a casino's website, which basically is what Twitter is, it's an advertisement for NFTs right now. When you go to a casino's website, you know what you're going to find? You're going to find pictures of all the jackpot winners with their arms up in the air. I paid a penny machine and I won millions of dollars. They don't show you the 25 people next to that person on slot machines that have lost everything they came there with, right? So it's the same thing, man. It's why the gambler's mentality is there. For you, for me, for anybody else who's ever gambled. The worst thing that could ever happen is when you win early on because you're chasing that stuff. You're chasing it. And you know what we have on Twitter? We have people who they were lucky and confuse it for smart. They were lucky and confuse it for good. And we're all chasing them, right? You have the people who were lucky enough to be early on. Now, guys, I implore you, okay? It's a fun little rabbit hole to go down, right? The people who bought into Bored Apes were not smarter than you. They're not. They were not smarter. They were just there before you, right? Anything that takes off, the people who were early enough on, and I'm here to say we are not all going to make it. We are not all early right now, okay? But the people who were early on to this NFT, they all made money. Every project that was there early on is doing fine. Everyone, right? And all the people who were in there are all doing well. And you see them all over the place. Why do you think people say, what's the next Bored Apes? More than they say, hi, kids. They're on Twitter all the time, spending more time finding what the next Bored Apes is. And here's the bad part. There are projects that look like they could be, right? Whether it's this week's Doodles, right, or whatever else has run up this week. Whether it's Cool Cats that ran, and you name it, and you're like, oh man, I could have bought into that one. I could have, woulda, shoulda. But for every one of those guys, for every one of these alien friends that seems to be moving in the right direction, for every one of these Disco Bear ones that just came out, I'm gonna keep calling it that because I think it's funny, right?
It's accurate.
There are 50 that are just like it, that had the same fundamentals, the same mint price, the same active Discord, the same community that looked like they were going to pump it up, the same questionable utility, right? And yet those are not going to run. So the tough part about it is when you do your research ahead of time, how does Joe Schmo, Johnny Cage, and Andy Goldberg, how do they figure out which one of these are going to have that run because of a coordinated effort? Which one of these are going to be the ones where somebody comes in over the top and starts doing it? Do we have to monitor wallets? I mean, like, what's the way to do it? And that's difficult, man. It's tough to do that because ultimately, you know what it is? There are people who are going to be in the right ones. There are people, and they're going to be lucky. I said this morning to our group. There are people in pyramid schemes who make money who aren't part of the scheme. They just happen to be in it, and the right. Shoot, go ahead.
Just because you're in a project doesn't necessarily mean you profit off of it too.
It's true.
Right? Because there's this tendency that when a project's running, you don't want to sell, right?
Correct.
You don't want to miss out on alpha. And then it could turn on you really quickly. And again, most of the people that are holding, what makes this so interesting is when these projects are running, you don't want to sell. But when they reverse, it's really actually hard to get out of them because becomes this very interesting undercutting behavior.
Yep.
Right? And let's not forget about the fees that you pay on both sides. Most retail investors are taxed on both sides.
Yep.
So yeah, there are the people that, they got into Alien Friends at Mint and they've held now to 2.3 and they're going to time the top perfectly and sell off. But those are maybe 1%. Most people got in at 0.5, see it run up to 2.3. They think that they're the next mutant apes and they hold forever. And actually it goes down to 1 ETH, right? Because of the undercutting. And maybe they made 0.25 ETH, right? With all the fees and taxes and all, and you pay OpenSea, you pay the creators. So it's, you might look like the people that are holding doodles are making money, but you don't really make money until you sell. And a lot of people don't want to sell into the hype. They want to hold through the hype because they believe that their project is going to be the next blue chip.
It's very true. I mean, think about it. What he's telling you guys is, let's just say you were smart enough, because what is VFriends floor at? 13. Let's just say you were smart enough to buy
VFriends is its own
just let me do the math. Forget about VFriends. I'm just using that for math, right?
12 or 13 right
So
now.
let's just say it's 13. Let's say you were smart enough to get in it before Gary's announcement and you bought in at 11. Okay, you bought it at 11, right? Which is great, because obviously running 2 ETH because of his announcement is a great thing. But let's do the actual math. From the outside,
8,000 USD or 6,000 USD now.
right? So from the outside, but wait for it. Okay, that's what you think. You think you're making 8 or 6. So this is exactly what you just said, man. From the outside looking in, you look like a genius, and people are like, "Oh, that's a profitable play." So 11 ETH. On that 11 ETH, you paid a little bit of gas. Not a tremendous amount, because remember, it's on 11 ETH. But when you try to sell a VFriend, it is 10%. 10% that goes back to VFriends. And I think it's like 2% or whatever it is that goes to OpenSea, right? So on that 13, you're actually going to lose about an ETH and a half. It's 1.3 back plus a little bit more, 2%. You're actually losing about an ETH and a half. So what profit are you making? Make a couple $100 for it to go from 11 to 13. If it went from 11
but inside, to 12, you feel like you're winning.
You're right? Like, I'm winning. If we went from 11 to 12 and a half, you sell, you broke even. Can you believe that? And people don't realize that also. You're like, I bought it at 11. Holy cow, this went crazy. This just went up from 11 to 13 overnight. I'm a genius. You're basically even. Let me keep that in mind when you're buying stuff, guys. Keep that in mind. It's always fun to look at. Maybe one of our episodes this week when we get on Shadowy Coder, he's busy in the lab cooking up all kinds of stuff. I mean, he works harder than all of us. I mean, look at this. Look at the whiteboard behind us. I mean, he does like 6-7 episodes a week. He's cooking up all kinds of crazy stuff. But one of the things, he's in the lab, evil scientist, evil genius that he is. He keeps planes in the air, guys. So, I mean, this is the kind of smarts we got on our staff here. I think he can probably show you guys how you can figure out through the contract what that percentage is before buying in, right? How much you're gonna save, how much it's gonna cost you, to when you sell. Because some projects are not that much. Some projects are not 10%. Not to crap on VFriends, a great project, but VFriends is 10%. That's one of the higher ones. And it's something to look into, especially if you're a flipper, right? If you're planning on flipping these things, that 10% really means that when you buy it, the project has to go up 15%. Project has to go up, more than that 10% for you to make money on it, right? So
here's who's really winning. It's the creators. It's the creators that get in with the cool kids the cool kids go to lunch and say, you got to buy this kid's project. I'll give you guys an example. Brain Bomb It. Flowers with like mouths and kind of abstract, a little bit like psychedelic vibe. So this is a project that the artist was promoted by Gary, right? This is a project that on the secondary market has done really, really well. I'll pull it up here. And just last night, he ended up buying a VFriend.
Ooh, shocking.
So the people that are making the most money. Now, there are flippers that are, nickel and dime. And respect, man. Like, it takes a lot of discipline, but those alphas are there, Cage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it happened in cards, too, when people, were smart and they bought, Metcalf Bridges cards for 33 cents and sold them for $9. Yeah, they're shipping. But if you kind of flip and you have discipline, you can make some money. But the people that are making the big money, the money that you see all over Twitter, that, generational wealth, are the creators that get in with the cool crowd. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I'm asked what space I'd rather be in, cards or NFTs, I'm going to go with NFTs, and it's going to be one reason. It's because Gary can't leave NFTs.
Because he has V friends.
Yeah. He's not he doesn't own tops in cards. And for lack of a better way of saying it, and he would hate this, I'm sure, but he does move markets. He does. Right? He probably would rather be able to be stealth. He probably would rather be able to not have people follow him. And he knows that by people just following blindly, probably people are going to lose money. Right? And there's a lot of scams. People pretend to mint things into his wallet and all that other fun stuff. But think of the impact that he has on the space. And a lot of people don't like that. But, Coinbase, when it's your project, everybody's excited. When Coinbase comes out and they say, we're having a partnership, we're going to be listing World of Women. World of Women went nuts. Everybody's happy. When Lazy Lions, Coinbase, it went from, basically 0.96 to 1.35 the day that Coinbase announced it's going to be there. Have you ever heard of Mumbat? Yep. An artist, right? So let me ask you, how have you heard of the artist?
They were on Twitter Spaces with Gary.
A Twitter Spaces with Gary, and Gary talked up their spot and bought their stuff. You name it. I'm 99% sure that this week, Coinbase, in their new bunch of announcements where they announce another half dozen NFTs they're going to be trading on Coinbase, Mumbat was one of the handful that were selected to be on Coinbase. Now, we're not talking about Bored Apes here, guys, but that's the type of impact that Gary has on the space. An unknown artist whose stuff was not selling for that much until Twitter Spaces and Gary buying it is now going to be trading on Coinbase. So, part of me says, all right, you're weaving a nice episode here where we're talking about, this is where the card space was a year ago. Honestly, I think the NFT space is probably better off because Gary's going to stay here and he really does move things. Not always. Let's talk about creatures for a second. Because I know real
quick, I want to just wrap up, Raymond. Yeah, this right here, if you guys go back, this is when the artist was on Gary's show and Gary tweeted about him.
Look at all that volume.
1,700 volume. What percentage of the volume was right here? 80% of total volume?
More.
Maybe more. So this is where the creator, when there's volume, they take a percentage of every fee. Let's just assume it's 5%. This is where they make the money. But relatively flat, right? None of the investors are making money. Not even really the OG investors. Maybe a little bit here and there. But again, if you bought in at 0.1, which is the average price on November 12th, you got in really good, right, Cage?
Yeah, but you had to time the market. You had to be lucky.
You had to be perfect. You're probably paying 0.15 with gas, right? 0.15 with gas. And you're selling for 0.3 or 0.29, here we are. And you're taking out what? 0.22, 0.23.
You were in this. What was the highest it ever got up to?
0.9.
So almost an ETH.
Yeah. I got fortunate, Cage. I got to tell you, I got very lucky.
But 10x
I
on
sold
this,
at
right?
the right time.
But think about that. Are there any other projects that come to mind recently that have basically 10x'd? Maybe Alien Friends? Like, how is that different? I mean, maybe people will tell me it's a different project, a different team, maybe additional utility. But
Gary owns the number one Alien Friend.
Okay, so have you ever heard of Art Stars? Gary was in that too. His brother was buying the rarest ones too, and it didn't even mint out.
The iPad one? That was a kind of cool concept. So Art Stars, if you guys don't know, I mean, that feels like it was like
forever ago.
1989 Kangaroo Upper Deck card.
But it's funny. Year. It's such learning. It's learning in the space, right? So I paid less for my Clone X than I paid for my Art Star, and the project is dead. Yeah. Wow. Pretty crazy, right? To think about. Just
cool. It was these bald-headed guys, and they held an iPad, and you could put anything you wanted on that iPad.
Yep, it's pretty crazy. It really is. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, it's a fun space, and I guess the thing is, I like where you're going with it, right? It's optimism, but you got to go in with your eyes open. Realize that there's a lot of stuff going on here, and I guess if you take something from the stock market, it's like past success does not guarantee future returns. Just because you find a project that looks exactly like one that just ran last week same utility type, same, you name it, same, okay, great, like art, you name it. It doesn't mean anything. It's almost like crypto magic, the ones that run versus the ones that don't. And it really does depend on what you're doing. And I mean, we can talk about creatures in a second, because Gary posted a video this morning with him wearing one of the creatures' sweaters. But that didn't move creatures, it's, because he didn't say, hey, by the way, look at my sweater, and creatures is the next one to run. Then it would run. but his message is actually more important. It's comparing the space now to like the late 90s internet stocks, where most people, there was a way to make money. You could flip, you could day trade, but most of the things that were being traded are garbage. They went down to zero. And I will give him a lot of credit that has been a constant refrain going on. And look at what's going on with ETH, right? Remember
the 5th of November.
Yeah, well, that too. But remember, not so long ago, every third person on Twitter was saying that right around the corner, probably in January, we're going to hit 10,000 ETH and 100,000 Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that doesn't happen this year. It very well might. But those people who were shouting that from the rooftops when we were approaching 5,000 ETH and 60,000 and change Bitcoin, I don't see them anymore, right? I don't see them posting that stuff anymore. So I guess the full-on lesson to be learned here, right, is just, it is the Wild West. It really is. What work on one project may not work on the next, likely won't work on the next. And just because, Johnny Chimpo with his ape is posting about his huge gains and he's in another project doesn't necessarily mean that he has this secret sauce. He doesn't have the keys to One Eye Willie, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they can replicate that. Take it from me, and I will be the first one to tell you this, guys. Luck plays a huge part in it. I minted World of Women, and I don't even like the art. That's luck. It wasn't that I researched it for days and said, this project's fantastic, the artist is amazing, they're going to have great utility. There's no utility unless you happen to be one of the, I think it was maybe 60 or 70 total ones. There's a curator club that gets to pick art they buy. Then there's two clubs, one that has like 20 people in it to share in the royalties, and one that has like 25 or 30 people that share in anything they sell as far as their own like artwork that they're collecting. So of the 10,000, like less than 0.1% have utility. So don't talk about utilities, what's making that run, because 99.9% of them don't have any utility. So that's luck. That's a luck to be in and luck to make those trades. But even that,
luck to get out at the right time.
But I didn't, obviously. I should be still holding it. I'd be a wealthy man.
Can we talk about that? Because
shoot.
Another lesson from the card space is we had a similar run up, right? So I'll go with a few different cards. We'll go with just a base card, which is like a high population card. So a Luca base Prism, right? That card at its high in August 2020 was a $2,200 card. Now it's about a $500 card, which if you compare those two numbers, the high and where it is now, you're like, wow, people are struggling. But then if you compare that card to just 2 years ago, that card is up like 30%, 40%, depending on when you bought it, it's probably up 100%. Let's use the Michael Jordan Fleer card, which is like the bellwether stock. If you compare to the high, it's $780,000. Now it's about $300, $350, $380, depending on how good it looks. That's half.
No, tonight we'll get a comp tonight.
But less than 1 year ago, that card was $50,000, $60,000. So my point is, we look at apes and we're like 50 ETH. They're gonna go to the moon. Those apes were 0.05. They were minted for 0.08, I think, right? Even if they became a 10 ETH project, that's an astronomical success. Like that's an astronomical success. Yet our frames, our lenses that we look through are fascinating because we just think everything keeps going up infinitely.
Yep.
Remember, for things to go up infinitely, you need to have infinite buyers, and there aren't infinite buyers. So, and there's infinite projects, though. There's infinite supply. So it's really fascinating. I will tell you, the best investment I made was the Proof Collective cage. And
what's the floor on that now?
So I'll actually say this is one of those projects that I've realized what it is. So I'll tell you guys the floor, but first I'll tell you what it is. I paid for university, but instead of Cage, like you paid for, I paid for university. I went to Drexel, and I have $50,000 in loans. What I did was I bought a token, and if that university provides me value, I'm not going to sell the token. When
Right.
the university stops providing me value, a lot of people will sell. So the floor on that is 80, bought in at 2.25. But the reason behind that is all of the value that community has. It's 1,000 spots max, and it's education. The Discord is constantly buzzing. People are helping each other. People are sharing knowledge. I don't think I'll ever want to sell that because no amount of money will overshadow the value of the education that I'm getting. And I'm in the real stage of 2022 with NFTs because I do believe we're going to see a massive correction. Hey, man.
Is that what they're saying there? Is that what they're educating you? That there's a massive correction coming in 2022?
No, they don't spout patterns like I do. I know when. I don't know when to buy and when to sell, but I know when a correction's coming.
All right. Well, listen, if a correction's coming, what does that mean? What does that mean for people? Give me some actionable, advice for our folks here, and then I'll give some value too.
If you don't be scared to take profit, and specifically if you're in profit on doubles. Like let's say you got into Creature World or any of the projects we mentioned, and you own 5 or 10 of them. Why not take profit? You're still in, and you still have horses that are in the race, but you also have. And I'm starting to think, Cage, does selling and holding ETH still qualifies profit? Because
Sure.
I'm starting to think you got to put it into fiat for it to really be profit.
Yeah, because we might be talking something different next week. I mean, if we did that same sentence 2 months ago, you'd be like, of course, you made your profit on your NFT, and now you make your profit with ETH going up. But in a week where ETH is down like this, and we do the episode clearly, that's that changes also. But I mean, listen.
But even ETH, Cage, ETH was $200 in 2019.
Yep, it's still 3 times where it was this time last year. So even with it being down, it's pretty crazy. So let me give my little bit of quote unquote alpha, and we're not paid by anybody in this show here. So let's just make sure we have another show where we're paid by plenty of people, but this show here for Crypto Casuals, hey, if you're listening and you want to pay us, that's great. We can talk about your stuff too, but here you go. You ready? So I'm not paid by anyone, but one of the things in the space that I think has a real bright future, and I'd love to see them tokenize it for people who use it. I used it for the first time yesterday. Now I've been lurking in the Discord because I think there's some great alpha in there. But it's a thing called Genie, and you've probably seen it talked about on Twitter and stuff like that. But you think like, I'm not gonna use this. I'm not gonna do this. It's Genie.xyz. If you want to go take a look at it, I used it yesterday for the first time. I'll tell you what project, not because I want to pump it, but you guys. I mean, I'm CageLawyer.eth. Like you guys could find me and know what I have. You just won't see the 400 things I bought last year that are in my hidden folder that I can't sell. Maybe I should unhide those, and you guys could get a trip down crazy lane. What 2021 was in my brain, from raccoons to art stars to My Little Orphans. Sorry again, Andrew. Rugs and more rugs. It's like a Persian rug store by. Can we still say that Persian rug? It's like
the value you've added to my life in the year and a half I've known you.
I appreciate that.
Has been wildly
way more than the orphans.
Listen,
so Genie.xyz, I used it yesterday. It was perhaps the easiest thing that I've done in the space. So easy. You log in, you connect your wallet, you in a pull down menu, you pick what project you want to buy and how many. And you can click on them. You click on the ones you want. So you don't necessarily have to buy the 5 or 2 that are on the floor. And basically what this is, it's an aggregator. And it allows you to buy, let's say you found a project, right? The Ben Mesrock Rockets, right? For example, hypothetically, right? That dude's an author, right? And, the whole deal. And they're really cheap and they just minted. Let's say you wanted to buy 10 of them off the floor, right? To do that, you'd have to go in, buy one, go in, buy one, go in, buy one, pay gas individually for each one of them, go in, buy one. And maybe, depending on who you are, like let's say you're an influencer like Gary, people catch on and they see you're doing this, and then you try to buy the next one, and someone else already bought it, and you try to buy it, and someone else already bought it because you see the volume, you see the trends, and you can't buy them all. So what this aggregator allows you to do is, if you want to buy 10, 20, 30, whatever the heck it is of a certain thing off the floor. You pick the ones you want to buy, and it aggregates them and in one transaction buys them all and saves you approximately 20% ish in gas, which does add up. Yesterday, I tried to buy 35 of a project. By the time the aggregator was done, 3 of them were not available, right? Which in a fast mover, that's going to happen. But even in slow movers, it doesn't happen. So I wound up getting 32. The purchase price, I think, was like just over 3 ETH. And the gas for 32 things was like 0.8. So like 0.02 something per, which is pretty cheap for gas, right? I mean, I did it when gas was low-ish, and I did it, using this aggregator, so I was able to save some money on it also.
Gas
and that,
is like a buyer's premium, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to
but
think
it impacts it, right? Because let's just say I'm buying something at 0.75, right? It's 0.1, right? That's a big difference. That project's got to, you got to make 25-30% in your project just for it to break even, which is, in those numbers that happens. But if you can save 20% on gas, especially on those, that's a huge, huge amount on your profit, So anyway, it's not as big of a deal, I guess, on the huge ones, but there it becomes, if you want to buy in bulk, this is it's an easy thing, very easy to use. You just connect your wallet and boom, click on it, it's done, fast. So take a look if you like, little genie.
Guys, we're gonna keep rocking with these. I want to do these more regularly. I'm in the NFT world. I'm watching it. I'm enjoying it. I love the community. I love the friendships. I'm gonna start bringing you guys more lessons and learnings from what we're talking about in the Proof Collective, because truthfully, that's been a really cool group to be a part of it. I'll share the things I learn and watch and all that stuff. Cage, any final words before we wrap?
No, this was a fun one. Be careful out there. Have some fun. Buy projects you like. Everybody says buy what you love in the card space. I guess we got to bring that over to the NFT space, right? If you have conviction in something, that's great. Stick with it. And, I guess be aware of what's going on. It's tough with the FOMO, right? So final words are FOMO is crazy.
FOMO is crazy. But I'll tell you, FOMO is crazy when things are running. If you take profits, that FOMO changes real quick because you're pretty grateful that you've taken money off the table that you could go and get a vacation. You could buy real life stuff.
I'm going to ask you to do something for me right on this point, right? What people love about us on our Sports Card podcast is you and the life coaching, you and the Zen mentality, you and the kombucha drinking, herb stuff. Okay. So here's the thing. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? You just talked about like taking profits, right? So here's me. Tell me what you would say to someone like me who's listening. And it's like, when I'm winning, when I have one that's down, right? So let's say I'm losing, right? I have one that's down. I beat myself up because I picked the wrong project and I lost money on it and it's going down. But even on the ones where I picked right? When I take profit, let's say I find one that's an ETH and it goes to 2 and I take my profit, right? Just like you're saying, and I made my money and that's a winner. In 2 days, I look back at it and it's now 2.5 or 3 ETH. And even on my winners, I feel like I'm a loser. So no matter what happens, because I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be the person who's every time buying at the bottom and selling at the top. We just can't do that. You can't time the market. What do you say to somebody like that? Because I'm sure this is a lot of people out there who are basically beating themselves up on the losers and then beating themselves up on the winners because the winners weren't big enough winners.
So we go to the gym, right, to like lift weights. I think you got to go to the gym for the mind. So what I do is, one, I start with positivity. So I start with I talk to myself and I say, despite all of the external results, I know I'm winning. I know I'm learning. So number one to me is gaining experience and knowledge. And then I add, I know I'm learning and I haven't lost money, right? So I kind of reframe my perspective. I did it today on my walk with coffee because the same thing happened to me, Cage. I own 8 alien friends and I took 0.2, 0.3, 1 ETH. But I'm like, damn, I should have just held them and been in a coma and smoked a lot more herb and probably heavier stuff. So I didn't know where my phone was. I don't do heavy stuff, but same thing. But then I say, dude, there's going to be more winners in the future. I'm proud of you. You're learning. You're getting better. You're spotting stuff. And then, yeah, I that's where I stay. I stay with I go to like the mental gym and I start kind of reframing how I view stuff.
So guys, keep listening to us, because what we're going to show you is that you're out there in the world and you're watching Twitter and you're seeing people who are claiming to have bought the bottom and sold the top. And that's why they go on Twitter to tell that, to champion that. But I'm going to tell you, for every one person that's out there doing that, there's 50 of us. And I say us for a reason. There's 50 of us that are selling on the way up and didn't squeeze every bit of juice out of that piece
Guys,
of fruit.
I'm in the Proof Collective with millionaires, crypto millionaires. This is a $32,000 like access token, and there were people that minted 100 mutant apes and sold 100 apes and sold them. So my point is, we all got losses. They're not gonna, like, a few people share that on Twitter, but you don't hear a lot of that, right?
Right.
I minted, like, these guys were in early and they minted the winners and they didn't stay in them, and they might hold one of the 100. So
Is that a rattlesnake? Because you should move.
I don't like snakes. That's a bird.
Okay, good.
That was a bird.
It's like,
We'll be back
he's a
this
trooper.
week. We'll be back this week. Love you,
Thanks, everybody.
Crypto Casual Nation.